I think in an hierarchical organization, I think you're right, Keith. You can get one bad leader in a hierarchical organization, you can have pockets of poor behavior and you can about hide it. But a matrix will amplify your dysfunction, but it also amplifies health. That's why I love
Yes.
what you do. Get a matrix flying, and the responsiveness and the agility and a matrix amplifying how healthy we are is an extraordinary thing to see.
This is the Organizational Health Advantage podcast with Keith Hadley and James Felton, principal consultants at Table Group. They're in the business of coaching leaders to build strategic focus and cultural alignment that leads to amazing results. Welcome to the Org Health Advantage.
Hello, and welcome to the Org Health Advantage podcast. I'm your co-host, James Felton, and I'm joined as always by Keith Hadley. Keith, how are you?
I'm doing really well, James. And I always say this, and I always mean it. I am really excited about today's episode.
Yes. And if you're watching this podcast, you can see that we are joined by a very special guest, Sophie Dummer from the UK. Sophie, how are you?
I'm good. It's lovely to be here with you two.
Yes, we're excited. Thank you for joining us. And Sophie, you are with the Table Group out in the UK, like I said. Where do you live?
I live in East Dulwich, which is in South London. I used to live in North London, so I've recently migrated south.
Okay. And what are the differences between North and South London? Real quick.
Well, according to my family, about a continent. I think that South Londoners are probably a little bit more friendly and they like to travel. And North Londoners are amazing, but we don't really know how to get to South London because it doesn't have a tube network.
Oh.
So you can travel up one way.
Okay.
They'll probably make it in a couple of years.
Probably. Okay.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for joining us.
And James, I will have to just quickly say, Sophie and I have been collaborating on a client project, and it has been incredible to work with her. She brings incredible energy, but not the energy, it's the insight. Like her view into teams, her view into leaders, the kinds of things that we've been able to collaborate behind the scenes and in front of the client have been incredible. So, Sophie, it's been awesome to work with you, and we're so excited that you've decided to join us on this podcast. What's our topic?
Our topic today is, we're titling this The Messy Matrix. We work a lot with matrix organizations. There are probably some really good reasons why those leaders have chosen to matrix the organization, but it can present some problems.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm really curious. You folks are working with a few of them right now. I've worked with a few in the past. What do you think the reasons for this are? Like, why would organizations, obviously they're usually bigger organizations, why would they choose to kind of matrix their mid-level employees?
Yeah.
Sophie?
It's a really good question. I think the first is usually cost. They're organizations, and it's more efficient resource-wise. And I think you get really deep expertise in some functions that you can then spread across the organization. Keith, what about you?
I think those are two. The first one that came to mind, and maybe this I'm already revealing a bit of my cynicism, is control. It often seems like the reason we decide to put a matrix in is because we really can't trust those business units or to do the right things, and so we need to be able to exert some control into them by placing centralized functional resources. Now I think that's probably done with a very good reason. Like if we're leveraging a central expertise and making sure that expertise shows up out in the field. But I think often it is because we can't really trust them to do the right things. We need to have embedded functional people living and breathing with them on the teams. Yeah. That may have been too cynical, though.
Well, so it's like, with all the companies that have matrix organizations, there for sure could be some of that.
Yep.
Like we want to be able to control some things and see what's going on in some areas that we might not have a great view of. But probably more than anything, it's what Sophie said, which would be like cost reduction. Like we don't want roles to overlap. We don't want redundancy of roles.
Yeah.
Then it's like, along with that is this efficiency of roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, were you going to add one more?
I think that the non-cynical side of that is there are necessary controls and systems and consistencies that you want to have across
Yes.
the organization. I think of things like safety or financial
Absolutely.
controls or how we use data appropriately or cybersecurity. These are all really good reasons to want to exert some control and some consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like that word consistency over control. What are your thoughts there, Sophie? You were about to say something.
I think Keith's onto something, because if you think about HR as well, consistency also protects our people.
Yeah.
Consistency also means that we are doing the best with the resources that we have.
Yeah.
Do you think sometimes also matrixes are formed for innovation? There's something about the messy cross collaboration of people working together that actually makes us more innovative, rather than just having deep-rooted business units or functions that don't actually create the environments for things to be more creative. It's it's an upbeat tone on the sort of cynicism of like, maybe it's more at the other.
I was going to say that sounds like so incredibly idealistic that it's like we're going to get to the problems in a bit, but I think like the opposite actually happens. But absolutely, I think that is maybe why somebody would have said this is a really good idea, and maybe even selling it. They probably brought in a management consulting firm that proposed this, and that was probably one of the bullets on the slide. Is like, this is going to be a great way to find innovation.
Yeah.
Coming from multiple perspectives. So I don't think necessarily like innovative in terms of like we'll create the world's best HR system, but I think innovative in terms of the diversity of thought and the multiple perspectives you get from a matrix organization.
Right.
Yeah. And since we're on this more idealistic approach, like it can breed that positive consistency around the culture and innovation. And, like it ideally, this would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because we have more people living a consistent culture.
Yeah. And I am not going to lie, when I have an initial call with the CEO, maybe that's coming in as a lead or somebody interested in doing this work, when I find out that it's a matrix organization, my heart sinks, and it's just like, oh, okay, because we can already anticipate some of the dysfunctions and some of the politics and the confusion that comes as a result. And so I think I would go on record saying I wouldn't recommend the matrix organization, but I'm totally fine being alone on that. But I think there are good reasons to do them. I just don't think they often come to fruition.
Well, it's almost like this world of virtual teaming.
Yes.
Like there are reasons to do it.
Yeah.
It makes being a great team a lot harder.
Right.
And we have to be more intentional in how we create this team environment in a virtual setting. And and the same is true for the matrix organizations. We have to be really intentional in the culture we want and the behaviors we want and the teaming we want in that environment.
Yeah. I love that. I think in an hierarchical organization, I think you're right, Keith. You can get one bad leader in a hierarchical organization. You can have pockets of poor behavior and you can about hide it. But a matrix will amplify your dysfunction, but it also amplifies health. That's why I love what you do. Get a matrix flying, and the responsiveness and the agility and a matrix amplifying how healthy we are is an extraordinary thing to see.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Work. I think I'm realizing I'm on the idealistic side of matrix.
But I think you're right. When you have that's a great way of saying it. Like if you have a core of organizational health,
yes,
then the benefits of the matrix do come to life.
Yes.
And maybe what I've seen in my own personal experience is that we've had organizations that did the matrix as like a smart side org chart.
Yes.
And they thought that's going to be the solution. And then they didn't build into their solution some of the things we're about to talk about. Like, okay, if you have a matrix, then these are the things that are going to be necessary. They shortcut that process thinking like the matrix itself is going to work. And I have just not had very many personal experiences where it is working well.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
But Sophie, in our pre-call, like you don't necessarily have to jump into this now, but you are working with an organization where it is working well. And so that, maybe just share with us a little bit of what you're seeing that is working well.
So we're working with National Grid, who are a massive energy company in the UK and USA as well. And I'd say they're on a journey, but one of the things I love most is I think that they know that the org design you're talking about, Keith, is only taking them 50% of the way there. And unless they do the healthy side as well, it will actually drag them backwards. And so, not prompted by the podcast, but I was on a call with Katie Schenstrom, who's the people lead at Strategic Infrastructure there this morning, and totally unprompted, she was like, the best thing that helps us in the matrix is Six Working Genius. So they are dealing into the tools that help them become more healthy. And they have cross-functional teams that will get together. And the first thing they do is build trust. And then they run healthy conversations. But National Grid have been trying to sort of put team effectiveness at the heart of their journey for a wee while. But I think they know it's the only way to make it work.
Right.
Perfect, but they're trying.
Yeah.
Well, Keith, I'd love to hear a little bit about the cynicism, and
Okay.
It would be easy to keep going on Sophie's great momentum here, but I want to kind of end with that as opposed to jump into it and end with the snarkiness, which goes against my wiring anyway. But yeah,
wait,
so
snarkiness goes against your wiring?
No. Not go into the snarkiness or not end with snarkiness.
Are we telling the truth of this podcast or what? So yeah, I think some of the problems, and I'll have a short list. I'd love to build on it with the two of you. Some of the problems I've seen, the classics are you have individuals who just don't know who their boss is, or they don't know what team they're really on. They're on two teams, and what's my primary team? And so they live in a state of fear and tension, even like professional schizophrenia of like, I'm with this team trying to impose certain things on them from the other team. I'm with that team trying to, impose things on them from this other team, and I'm constantly caught in the middle. And what I've seen happen is people get cynical, they get jaded, they get burned out. They live in a state of confusion. So that's kind of the two teams. Who's my real boss? Who's my real team?
And Keith, just kind of like the side story with that is then the rest of the people on a team or that work together most of the time don't know if they can trust that other person.
Right.
Because they're not sure where the loyalty is.
Right. Yeah. So, and I've been, okay. Sophie, what else have you seen? Yeah, you're about to jump in, Soph.
No, I think I love this. I think and I'm with you, the matrices can be incredibly painful. They're slow. Yeah. We seek for consensus, and because no one knows who makes the decisions. Decision making is slow. Teams are paralyzed. I agree with you, Keith. People get burnt out, and loyalty is a huge thing.
Yeah,
because it's like, I think that's probably the biggest one. It's like, who do I serve?
Yeah.
Your bosses are giving me two lists of priorities. Which one do I do first?
Yeah.
And then that comes back to politics and who shouts the loudest.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And who's the most hierarchical leader? And it's none of that works.
Right.
Yeah. And we argue. I've been in the room and I've talked to leaders who are literally arguing with each other about who owns the decision, who has the authority to make a decision.
Yeah.
And those are the moments that we typically call a timeout and say, hey guys, this is not about decision-making authority. This is about decision-making responsibility. Who's responsible for making a good decision? And the answer is like we all are. And in a low trust, dysfunctional company that has a matrix, people will spend more time arguing with each other and competing with each other, which cuts against the very reasons why the matrix was set up in the first place.
Yeah. It can amplify silos. Well, we think the matrix is going to overcome silos. It actually, if the matrix doesn't work well, then people go back to their silos and complain about what's going on with the other people. And as you said, it can create competition within the organization.
Yeah.
As opposed to all of us united and fighting the competition outside the organization.
And the casualties are those poor individuals who are literally serving on two teams, right? Trying to keep two executives happy. When in reality, those two executives are on the same executive team and should be talking to each other, but they they don't. And so it forces that misalignment to the next level, and these poor individuals who are then the casualties of the system.
Yeah.
I love that. So you get overswinging executives and then an entire culture that doesn't know or doesn't want to make decisions. And so Matrix suddenly goes from wanting to be something that empowers and increases pace to actually a whole organization where people don't know or won't make decisions.
Yeah.
So then you've got to, that slows everything down.
Yeah.
So, Sophie, talk about that concept a bit about, the serving and policing dichotomy or paradox. That was super interesting.
I was talking to someone older and wiser than me earlier about what really shows up in a leadership team when you're looking at BU responsibilities and then centralized functions. And we were talking about there's a paradox in leadership anyway. We all face into that. But the particular paradox that comes from when you're trying to navigate central functions versus verticals. And so you land up with something like finance. And on one side, you can sort of police, and on the other side, you're serving. And so a finance leader that over polices starts controlling everything. And so because they can't navigate the complexities at the executive table of having a nuanced conversation that takes into account context, that solves the hard things, they resort to over policing, which the BU lead then just ignores. But then the other side of the paradox is, or fight. And then the other side of the paradox is a finance function that is so scared of the BU lead that they overserve. And so they let their costs run amok and they let things go astray and they don't get involved because it's too hard. And so you land up like these centralized functions facing into a paradox. And then on the other side, if we carry on with the BU lead, you've got where do they take autonomy? So they just make decisions on their own versus where do they need to give way? And then that becomes a fight in itself as well. So I think the paradox of leadership becomes so much harder in a matrix where the context and the nuance and the ability to hold all those perspectives, you need a really healthy leadership team that will do that.
Yeah.
So you land up with much bigger overswings.
This is literally the conversation that Bill Weingartner and I were having with the team yesterday. And now this team has a matrix organization, very large organization. The CFO is really sharp, and he described it very, very well once to me. And he said, look, the job of the business unit is to take risk. That's the whole point of a business. Like, you need people leading business units who are willing to take risk. The job of the finance department is to not to eliminate risk, because that cuts out the business. It's just to identify the risk so that the business leader knows how to calculate that risk. And so he saw his role as, hey, look, I'm not here to say no to things. I'm here to do the analysis to let you know the size and the nature of the risk that you're taking on. Now, he's a somewhat enlightened leader in terms of how this is supposed to work.
Totally.
But Sophie, I love that concept of like policing versus serving, and the reality of it's always going to be a nuanced conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we called the title The Messy Matrix. It's because it's nuance means messy.
Yeah.
And as Pat Lencioni likes to talk about, there's a difference between messy and sloppy. Sloppy is we're not even trying.
Yes.
Messy is acknowledgement of the fact, like, okay, this is super nuanced. And I'm glad we have these people in the room that can handle this nuance.
We get these as literally an offsite with an executive team of a matrix, 30,000 people in their organization.
Wow.
And one of the BU leads had been ignoring what the HR team was trying to bring. And she had been trying to serve and trying to serve and trying to serve. And in the last minute, they were literally making a call on whether they changed their entire bonus structure 2 weeks before the bonus went out. So she sort of was resorting to policing because it was overswinging, because they weren't having the healthy conversation, which is actually the performance culture within our matrix is not strong enough. And we need to address that within your BU. And then so we just swung. And then, 3 months later, he was making huge cuts to his BU because he had been ignoring, and actually the performance culture wasn't strong. It's this, I love what you said earlier. Org design gets us 50% of the way there. And then this is how you talk about it.
Right.
To be fair, I think you said that earlier, but
you
can still love it.
As they say.
Good point.
Okay, so how do we help folks that are in a matrix to do this the best? to get the most.
Yeah, well, Sophie, you would say there are 5 things that leaders need to do to fully leverage the matrix organization.
Yeah, let's hear them.
I'm going to lean on you guys. I'll kick off with the first one and then
All right.
go around. I think the first one is self-awareness. And I just stealing totally from Katie this morning, this absolutely unprompted thought that using a tool like 6 Working Geniuses helps leaders to know, and her exact words were, it helps us to know where we will find other people annoying and where we'll get energy, where we will find meetings annoying and where we'll get energy. And she's like, overnight, it has equipped us to have a language to work more effectively together.
Yeah. And I would add, since you said self-awareness, we also become aware of how we annoy others.
Yeah.
Didn't get that far. You're totally right. And suddenly we have a language and a way of looking at things which is not like other people.
Right.
Yeah.
And it shifts the emphasis away from like who is supposed to be in charge here, into like, hey, we're just trying to solve a problem. And where are we in the elevation? We're not going to do a Working Genius podcast, but here's the problem that has to be solved, or here's the opportunity to be grasped. Where are we in this process? That's awesome. Yeah. What's the second one?
Yeah. Well, it's to lead with vulnerability, empathy, grace.
Yeah.
Like this matrix organization is hard on everyone.
Right. Right.
Or it can be.
Yeah.
And so we need to realize that, like, yes, like playing 2 roles is hard. Yeah. Yes, me playing 2 roles is hard for them to understand where my loyalty is. We need to be able to understand that, like, that we have to be vulnerable. We're all trying to play a role. We're all doing the best we can, and hopefully that self-awareness means like, I need to be a little bit graceful and vulnerable and empathetic to others.
I think leading with vulnerability, the opposite of that is leading by trying to protect oneself and, be guarded and self-protective. So often in a matrix organization, you'll find yourself in a meeting where you are literally at that meeting to make sure something doesn't happen or make sure something does happen. And we always encourage leaders in that moment just to we call it show your cards. Be like, hey, I know we're here to kind of launch the new, go-to-market campaign. I'm here for marketing. I've been asked to make sure that whatever we do is consistent with our brand standards. So I'm just going to show you my card. I'm not going to be coy about it. Let me be vulnerable. Like whatever we do has to be consistent with brand standards. That's what I've been asked to do.
Yeah. When you said that, Keith, I agree with you. And what I was thinking is like our ego comes into it.
Yeah.
Or like, I'm right, you're wrong.
Right.
Or I'm doing the right thing here. You have an agenda. All those things play out. And when we are vulnerable, it's like we lower our ego. We can be more truthful about and transparent, like you said. And so I think it's just this like humility comes in where it's we're all here together. We're trying to solve a problem to beat a competitor, not compete with each other.
Yeah. And then the empathy comes in that then you can extend that to the others across the table for you to say,
Exactly.
and my guess is that you're probably here to do this, right? And this is probably what you're struggling with this is maybe what you need from me. Like, okay, so like, I love how you said vulnerability, empathy, grace. If we bring that attitude and mindset, that'll make it easier.
Yeah.
What's the third? Sophie, what's our third?
Running at hard problems, running at the hard conversations.
Yeah.
I think as leaders in a matrix, if we walked in the room every time and wanted to solve the most complex and difficult issues at the table so that our people can actually get on with it where they want to do, then we're onto something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most teams do the opposite of that, though, don't they? They run away from a hard conversation rather than run toward it.
Well, I was going to say, I think they run towards the topic with someone else. Like they don't want to have it here with these people because it's so hard. So they'll go and vent or complain to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because that's difficult. Getting in a room, being willing to consider all the other perspectives, to know that I might not get what I think is right, to know that there is no right and that we're just trying to solve a problem together. But most importantly, to not look up. I think the biggest temptation in a matrix is just to float every decision up because it's easy. And if that was one of the things we really saw at National Grid, actually, I have to give them credit for, is leaders started taking huge agency for decisions at their table. They stopped picking things up. We started to see change, but it was built on trust and empathy.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good segue to the fourth, which is if we're leaning into those hard conversations, if we are bringing vulnerability and empathy to them, and we're following the working genius, by the time we get to the fourth is to use influence over authority to co-create clarity. And meaning we are in a conversation to make a decision. Another way of thinking of a decision is that it's not about who gets to make the decision. It's about, we need to create some clarity here. That's what we've been tasked with. Let's not abdicate our responsibility by escalating it back up, but let's lean into this moment and solve something together, but not pulling out my authority card.
Right. Yeah. We, Keith, you and I worked with a team where the CEO founder stepped away, and it took a while to put somebody else in that position. So you had an executive team who basically had to make decisions without somebody having full authority.
Yeah.
And they did a great job of continuing to run the company. And that's what we're looking for with teams or people below that executive team. There was nobody they could really push it up to. So in a matrix organization, a lot of times those people do have somebody to you guys make the decision. But we really need them to act like that executive team without a CEO.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes you see a leader who's used to more hierarchical structure, and they go into a matrix and they see that as a loss of control, as a loss of power. And actually, just listening to you, Keith, it's a different type of power. It's a different co-creating and influencing without authority is a completely different type of leadership. I just get to decide.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. James, we did that episode a while ago on the different bases of power. And I was just thinking about Sophie was saying, it's that referent power where you have influence because you're likable and you're easy to work with. And you seem to have the best interest of the company at heart. That's actually a lot of power when you're in a matrix where you have to co-create clarity together.
Yeah.
I'll share a quick story from a client that I have now. Is we were one of the individuals in a session. He ended up in two different next level team sessions because he was a matrix guy he was the IT guy in one of the largest business units, and then of course he came to the IT team offsite as well. And you could see the light bulb moment go off for him. And he said, we were talking about, well, who's your team one? Who's your first team? And he said, oh, I get it now. Like when I'm in that business unit, my job is to solve problems and bring the IT perspective. When I'm with the IT team, my job is to solve problems and bring that business unit perspective. And that's just my job, is to solve problems. And if ever I can't solve a problem because I'm getting conflicting information, then my job is just to make that known.
Yeah.
He's like, I think, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the best description I've ever heard. Just you're there in both places. That is an incredibly valuable resource to both teams.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be the first one to spot a lack of alignment, and then just raise your hand and say, hey guys, we're not aligned here.
Yeah.
You are so onto something. Mike was talking to Mike earlier today about this, who's another member of the UK team, Keith, and he called the people who form dual roles alignment antennae. They're the first people that will spot misalignment and alignment, and you can fight them, or you can bring them into the tent and say, tell us more. How do we solve this?
Yeah.
Tell us more. How do we?
Yeah.
That's super cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then, so the fifth solution to a matrix organization, or getting it right, would be what, Keith?
It's always keep in mind that we are here to serve the greatest good.
Yeah.
Yes.
That we need to set down our whatever our job title is or whatever function or functions we're a part of, and just always serve the greatest good. That's why the matrix was set up, was whatever we decide has to be in service of what's best for the whole organization and not what's best for the team that I'm on, that I've been then dotted line relationship over to this team to like control, police, those things we've talked about earlier. So whenever there's a discrepancy, keep in mind, what's the greatest good that we can do here?
Yeah. Yeah. What would you add to that, Sophie? Like how? Yeah, go ahead.
I was thinking of two teams that I've worked with. So one I know of and one I've worked with, but I was talking to one of the people who headed up the people function for the Olympic Park when London ran the Olympics.
Wow.
And that was multiple contractors coming together
Yes.
at the same time in the matrix with competing priorities and everything else. And I was like, how did it work? Because we've got a lot of them now working on trying to upgrade the Great Grid Partnership with National Grid. And she was like, none of us wanted to be the people that meant that the Olympics didn't happen on time. We had a greater purpose that held us together. We wanted to do our country proud. And none of us wanted to be the reason that it didn't happen. And I love that. It's like when you said that, Keith, it's like that was the ultimate example of why it happened. And then you think about these big projects that fail, and I think so often it's because we haven't done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's an awesome story.
That is.
Because we're talking about different companies.
Yeah.
Coming together. Not just different BUs. Different functions.
It is this idea, like we people in matrices get so competitive with each other, and it's like we are not competing with each other. We're competing with our competitors, or in this case, we're competing with this like total disaster of like we can't pull off the Olympics and the whole world is watching. Like that's what we're competing with, and we need to figure out how to work together toward the greatest good.
Awesome.
James, run through that list again. That is the good list.
Yeah. So the solutions, or when matrix organizations have it running like just smooth, seamless. There's self-awareness. There's leading with vulnerability, empathy, grace. There's the willingness to have the hard conversations, to tackle the tough subjects. There's the influence without authority. And then there's this focus on the greater good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty good. So, Keith, I would encourage you, like when the matrix organizations call you, it's like you're here to solve problems and get the best out of those people.
Okay, I will do my best. I'll try to say, oh, good. I love a good matrix organization.
Yes.
There's like so much good work that we could do here. This is going to be great.
Yes.
No, but this is helpful because this comes up all the time. The three of us know this, and often we hear like, oh, this org health stuff, like, oh, it can't work in a matrix. And I think we've just started to unpack how we can make it work.
Yeah, this has been really helpful. Thank you, Sophie, for joining us.
Yeah, Sophie, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And until next time, we encourage you, the listener or the viewer, to share this and spread the word. We'd love getting feedback on these podcasts. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And until next time, be good. Be great. I don't know. I've never done until next time.
Good outro, James.
Yes. We might need to work on that. All right. Thank you again, Sophie.
See you later, guys.
Thank you, Keith. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Org Health Advantage. Your hosts, Keith and James, are helping leaders change the world of work and invite you to share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. For more resources on building stronger teams and organizational health, check out tablegroup.com.